This is Ryan Manley with Caliber Home Loans, and this is How to Buy a House. And today we are joined by Joe Eslait. Am I saying that right, Joe?
Yep, that's my last name. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, we're going to have Joe and I be on each week here, and we're just going to talk about what's going on in the market and really just give educational information on how to buy a house. So, Joe, we are going to talk about top three strategies for multiple offers today. And how is the market? We started the spring market. What are you experiencing with buyers you're working with?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, it's a very competitive housing market. If you are a buyer, you need to be ready. You need to be proactive because you're gonna have a lot of competition. And so, it's competitive, but it's good because there's also a lot more options of homes that you can buy. So it's definitely a good time.
Good. Well, today we want to focus. We know a lot of multiple offers are occurring right now in the marketplace. So let's get your three tips when you're in a multiple offer situation. What would be your first tip?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I like to think of it as kind of an art when you're trying to be competitive. So there's no like right or wrong way, but there's certain things that you should do. So the number one thing I would say that's very helpful is to talk to the listing agent and ask them, what's most important for the seller, and try to get as much information as you can so that you can help the buyer put in the best offer. So I would say that's one of the best things that you can do. And then based on that information, like when does the seller want to close? And based on that information, you can basically tailor the offer so that it's as best as possible for that seller. The second thing would be start off with your best offer. It's a spring market. It's very competitive right now. It might be the case where you put an offer and there aren't any other offers. Maybe you got in there like as soon as the home was listed, but more likely than not, there's gonna be other offers. So if you can just put your best offer, that's gonna go a long ways. And um, and then the third thing that I would recommend is obviously make sure you're pre-approved, but maybe even go a step further and get pre-approval from more than one bank. All else equal, if a seller has different offers and one of them has pre-approval from two banks, that might be what makes that seller pick your offer. And so those are just three things that I would recommend buyers to do to stand out and win that multiple offer situation.
Oh, those are great tips. We're talking about when you submit an offer, and myself as a lender, one thing I've started to do is call the listing agents um, just to really make them feel good about the financing of the buyer, letting them know that we've talked about and have seen their income documents, asset documents, um, and also just giving them, tidbits about the family or a person that may be buying the house to try to get a little edge on that listing opportunity. So, one thing we want to dig into, Joe, a little bit is escalation clauses. What is an escalation clause?
Yeah, that's a great question. Before we get into the escalation clause, I think that's very smart what you said. You want to work with a lender who is going to be proactive, and if that lender can call the listing agent and just kind of reaffirm that the realtor and the seller about the buyer and their finances and that they're a strong buyer, that would go a long way. So I really like that. That's a great idea. And I think a lot of lenders don't do that. So if you can do that or find a lender that will do that, that'll be very helpful. The escalation clause is it's a clause that you can add on the purchase agreement. And what it will do, especially in a multiple offer situation, is it'll help you compete if there's other offers that are higher than yours. So I'll just do a quick example. If you're looking for a home and the sale price is 300,000, you could put up an offer with the escalation clause where you offer 300,000 and you'll offer $1,000 more up to, let's say, 311. So let's say that the next best offer is 310. your offer with the escalation clause will go up to the 310 plus the 1,000, so you'd be at 311. So that would make you have the highest offer.
Awesome. That's great advice. Escalation clause I know are being used quite a bit right now in this market. So good explanation of the escalation clause. Final thing we want to touch on is the buyer love letter. What's up with this, Joe?
Yeah, so the buyer love letter, that's a tactic that buyers will use to, show the sellers who they are, and a lot of times it helps kind of put a face to an offer, if you will, for the sellers to know who's gonna be buying it. So I think it's helpful. A lot of times the realtor that's coaching or helping the listing agent will kind of tell them not to look at them because there might be some fair housing challenges with that on the seller side. But if you're a buyer and you want to talk about the home and what you loved about the home, that can definitely help you win a multiple offer situation. So if that's something that you are up to doing as a buyer, I would say go for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember a buyer I worked with a couple years ago, and this house they looked at had this great garden in it and in the backyard. And so in the letter to the seller, they wrote that they love gardening and how they were going to take care of it. And that there were multiple offers, and that was one of the reasons they got the house. Is the seller really wanted to take care of the garden, and that was important to him. So it's really cool, and that's a good another good tip for multiple
Yeah,
offers.
yeah, that's right. I think that's a great idea. Yep.
Well, Joe, I appreciate it, and we'll be on next week with some more tips from Joe Eslait with Casa Realty. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Yes.